Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Hybrid Fitness Report. My name is Paul Reynolds.
My name is Jude Reynolds.
And this week we are having a look at the upcoming DEKA World Championships in Fort Lauderdale on Saturday and Friday, end of this week. So we're recording now on Tuesday, getting ready to leave tomorrow. Jude taking part in that along with people in the DEKA Fit events, the DEKA Mile events, the DEKA Strong, the DEKA Ruck, the DEKA Teams.
I think that's it, yeah.
Whole lot of different events going on. So that's the main part. It'll be a shorter episode, a shorter podcast than usual. We'll have a look at our week in workouts and workout of the week, but then spend the rest of that shorter than usual time thinking about this weekend's championship. So before we do that, Jude, could you give us a bit of a recap on what was happening with Hyrox over the weekend?
So it wasn't as big as the last recap. We had a couple of events. Just a few of the key takeaways were Meg Jacoby has officially completed her comeback. So Meg Jacoby being a previous Hyrox world champion, she was out for a good chunk of the season, last season being injured. So she's come back now and she's now posted 258 lows, meaning that she's back into the 15 standings for the pro solo. For the solo, so that's really good to see. So she was and is a huge face in the sport. So to see her come back from what seemed to be, judging by her social media, a really tough road to recovery, it's awesome to see. On the other side, however, we had Utrecht. Sleds were a topic for conversation. So there were a few clips that I've seen personally where you had people pushing them with visible bunching
of the carpet.
Yeah, when we talk about that in Hyrox, we're referring to the carpet where it crinkles, and so it creates a sort of mini mountain for the sled to have to be pushed over, obviously enforcing you to exert a lot more energy, at times even stopping people in their tracks, as we saw for similar reasons, but also different in Chicago. So sleds, again, another topic of discussion in not such a good light. So it's unfortunate to see that judging by the times as well, some of the people that were there, that so many people were affected by it. Namely, Sam Bundy, Sam Schumann, Hide Versma were all at that event, and all three of them recorded times far set back from their PB. So don't know if that was how they're approaching the race, or if that was just a huge visible sort of example of how much it affected even the top end athletes. So
Sam was very much putting out on Sam Schumann on his Instagram that it was, you kind of caught and you could speak to this better than me, but as a top end athlete, caught between, you respect the event, you respect the efforts, you respect what they're trying to do, and you don't want to be creating waves like the carpet created waves.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
But he was saying, lessons learned, I've treated it as a hard workout. But then he's also saying, and this seems reasonable to me, is there's a lack of fairness when, one whole event. I mean, World Championships was kind of worse in a way because some lanes were crinkled and you could see some people just couldn't move the thing. Others were flying down. Whereas Utrecht, it seems to be that nobody there was able to get a decent time. Whereas I didn't hear any complaints from Madrid, for example, or any other recent events. No. There was uneven carpet. So you would hope that the fact that almost all of them are going through at this point without almost any complaints means hopefully they'll identify pretty quick what went wrong at Utrecht and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, you mentioned Madrid. Obviously, Madrid was probably the biggest of the three that happened over the weekend. But there were also some strangely very slow times from very good athletes, namely Charlie Baudril, and a couple of really sort of elite Spanish athletes. It was very surprising to see some times there.
Well, Charlie did 6 races before breakfast. That's why his time was down.
Yeah, so Charlie did his thing. And again, a couple of a few elite Spanish guys that I saw there looking, I was thinking, maybe they're in the 56s, 57s, coming away with an hour plus or just under it. So again, not sure, but that's what you said. There weren't many complaints or any pushback on the Madrid carpet or anything like that. So maybe it was just people taking it easy before Melbourne in a couple of weeks. Not sure. But weekend of little controversy, but also some real cool highlights in there as well.
And you mentioned Melbourne, so that'd be the next major of the season, where because it's so far from most people, I think it's fair to say there are quite a few people very happy to get their roll down invite. So you've got the top 15, and when you had the Hamburg Elite 15 earlier in the season, almost everybody who's in the top 15 was able to get there. One or two Americans may be missing, but then for Melbourne and Australia, there are quite a few people that just can't or just don't see their way to making it. So it's going to be a little bit of a different event, not quite so stacked as you'd expect a major to be, right?
Yeah, it won't be the most competitive one, but at the same time, I think it's really good to give exposure to people who are normally ranked, barely in the top 30 in the world, to be able to race in an elite major and prove to maybe themselves or the people that they should be there. Despite a roll down. So on one side, it won't be as competitive as Hamburg. On the other side, it's just great exposure for athletes that are just under that elite category or that elite 15 category, but still elite. So I think, I'm excited for that, even though it won't be as competitive. It'll still be a really strong race.
Cool. Moving on then to look next at our week in workouts. We haven't looked at this much recently. Obviously, your last week or two has been skewing quite heavily DEKA-wards. With the World Championships coming up this weekend. Mine kind of skewed hamstring-wards.
Yeah, dictated a lot by your injury, unfortunately.
Well, that's the story of my life when I'm trying, which is a subset of my life. But, those times when I am trying, it does seem to be, hamstrung. So I've got the Cayman Islands half marathon coming up, as have you.
I do.
Which is, of course, far more important than the DEKA Worlds for both of us.
Not really.
Not really? Okay. For me. Not even for me either. Okay. So I've got the Cayman Islands half marathon. So does he, but that's my big one for the next couple of weeks. So I did a full half training run a couple of weeks ago. I was only going to do about 10 miles, but unusually for this part of the world at this time of the year, it was a bit slightly cool and slightly breezy. So I extended my 10 miles to 13 and spent the next 2 weeks regretting it because my hamstring complained. Not bitterly, but it just sort of whinged gently at me every day.
Yeah, it's the problem when you think you're fine, and so you do something you weren't planning on or you weren't used to, and that's when you get injured, when you get complacent or when you think that you're okay, and then you try and push that extra distance. Why our bodies are made so that when we try and put some extra work in, it falls back on us, I don't know. And it's really frustrating, but a classic example of you trying to do too much when you thought you were fine, I think.
So I can actually feel the crushing weight of my ex-coach Chris Spigner's rolling eyes at me.
Yeah, rightly so.
Well, yes, maybe, arguably, potentially, theoretically, yes.
But other than that, what was your sort of training? How do you facilitate that quote-unquote injury?
How do I mitigate? I work around it, partly due to what you were telling me to do, which is a lot more erg work. So trying to keep up my threshold training and keep my heart rate bouncing up and down at strange paces that I'm not familiar with, without running. So which is kind of good for the CV system, I guess, albeit I just feel less fit because I also wasn't doing all the lower body stuff that I wanted to do. So I like doing arms, and I like doing ergs, and they're less draining than running or legs. But it being less draining also meant I felt like I was losing ground a bit, which is frustrating because, of course, after the half marathon, which is more of a B race, really, I've got Hyrox Vancouver, which is only my second ever Hyrox event coming up in 3 weeks. So I was kind of hoping to be in reasonable shape for that. But, I'm fitter than I was 7 months ago and not as fit as I hope to be in 6 months. So, it'll be fine.
It was sort of trying to find a way to work around the injury as opposed to through it. So anything you can to keep aerobic fitness up whilst minimizing the sort of strain on the injured area. So for him, obviously being hamstring is quite common. Skier does use the hamstring, but it doesn't overwork it. And so if you can ski with form that doesn't sort of tax that side of the body, or doesn't overwork it, and that's perfect as well. Rowing, very quad dominant, so not the hamstring, you can use that. And the bike as well. Play it sort of, your body better than anyone else. So whatever you're doing, do it to your best capacity whilst also making sure that it's not sort of going to set you back with the injury that you've already picked up.
Right. And so what's your DEKA specific work look like recently?
A lot more skill-based. A lot of the stations in DEKA as opposed to Hyrox, you can take more time off of most stations than you can in Hyrox with only improving skill and not just fitness. So with Hyrox, all the movements are quite, obviously there's a technique to the ergs, there's a technique to everything. But in DEKA, I believe that because the movements are so skill specific at times, like box step overs, for example, I could be way fitter than someone, but they could have a far better technique than me and beat me by loads of time on that box step. So, for example,
which is what happened with you and AJ last year.
Yeah, so there's a guy in my age group that, I wouldn't say I was way fitter than, but, we were at least on par. I was maybe even a little bit fitter than him. And he beat me on a station that takes 50 seconds by maybe 15. And that was purely because he knew what he was doing and I didn't. It was my second DEKA race and it was World Championship.
Yeah,
so
he absolutely nailed that. He looked good doing that.
Yeah, so it was a matter of this week of watching a lot of DEKA World Championship replays and finals and sort of learning technique for specifically stuff like med ball sit-ups, when to throw, when to catch the ball, box step overs, when to turn your hips, how hard to turn your hips, the angle at which your body needs to be leaning over the box, a bunch of specific stuff like that. Also the air bike, I've been reading and talking to a lot of people who know what they're talking about more than me in regards to the air bike. So it's just little things like that, improving my skill work, short, high intensity stuff to sort of accentuate that skill work. Like, for example, today was 2 10-minute AMRAPs, and then 2 movements in each of those AMRAPs were a DEKA station with few reps so I could focus on it, repeat the rounds, get used to running on and off that station, and just really focus on sort of DEKA specific work whilst also improving my overall fitness. That'll help me towards Vancouver as well, because both of them are an A race, but the problem is they're 2-3 weeks apart, 2 weeks apart. So it's kind of balancing. I said it in my YouTube as well, in that trying to train for Hyrox whilst also improving my skills for DEKA. So as much as I can, I haven't really tapered for it. My volume is slightly reduced, but I wouldn't call it a taper. And I've just implemented a lot more DEKA specific station work in there as well.
You took 3 hours off yesterday. I think that's pretty heavy taper by your standards.
Yeah, I had a line and I only had 1 session, so it was quite nice.
Yeah, shoddy. So only about 12 sessions this week then. And are you going to count the actual race on Friday as a session?
No.
Okay, so you're going to do another 2 sessions?
No, I will. I definitely will. I'll just have something easy in the evening.
Okay, so a couple of things then before we get into the review of the World Championships itself. First of all, do we have a workout for this week, please?
Yeah, so this week is going to be DEKA themed, hence DEKA preview episode. I did it today, and it was a finisher. I used it as a finisher. It's a 6-minute AMRAP, meaning 6 minutes as many rounds as possible. You've got 6 burpees to plate, followed by 12 box step overs. Not 12 each side, 12 in total, so 6 each side. And it's just 6 burpees to plate, 12 box step overs at 24 inches for men, 20 inches for women, and just keep going and just try not to drop off the pace. It's 6 minutes, very short, but also as well, they're 2 very whole body encompassing functional movements. You can tire out really quickly with this one. So don't be deceived by the time frame of only 6 minutes. Go hard, but don't kill yourself because you think you can hold out for 6 minutes, because with those 2 particular movements, you probably can't.
And is that something you got video of?
Actually, that was one of the parts of my session that I didn't video. So
okay, so you're going to reenact it.
I'm
going to fake reenact it so we can put it on Instagram for us. Okay, cool. So just before we get into our preview of the World Championships for DEKA, just to say that this week's podcast is sponsored by WoDLETE, a UK-based sports clothing company. Founded by an Ironman athlete designed for functional fitness, hybrid and endurance sports. Ready for training and race day. If you need brand name performance and quality from your clothing without brand name markups in price, you need WoDLETE. For free delivery on all UK orders over £50, and to see their autumn-winter range, go to wodlete.co.uk. That's WODLETE.co.uk today. And quote HFR Pod 20. That's HFR POD 20 for 20% on all your orders. So, Jude, on to the DEKA World Championships. Is there anything that particularly stands out for you in terms of the event as a whole? Obviously, it's happening up in Fort Lauderdale at the Broward County Convention Center. We've mentioned the events that are happening over the 2 days. So there are many hundreds of people taking part, some of them in multiple events. Obviously, some of the events, particularly the DEKA Strong, is about 12 minutes long for the winner?
Yeah,
so
the elites will be about 12 minutes.
Right, so they might be in a couple of different events. But the DEKA Fit event, which is the one that we previewed when we spoke earlier in our series of podcasts this autumn. We spoke about the various different events for that. That's coming up on the Friday along with a couple of others. Anything to particularly note about the event as a whole before we think about your own event in the DEKA Fit Elite Wave?
If we just quickly go over what the event entails. So there's the fit, the mile, and the strong. If we start from the fit quickly, you've got 500-meter runs before each station. Those stations are 30 RAM alternating reverse lunges. That's with a weight on your back, reverse lunging on the spot. 500-meter row, 20 box step overs or jump overs. That's up to you. 25 med ball sit-ups, 500.
Just to stop there. So the box jump overs or step overs, depending on, it's up to you. It's up to me in a given race. At the World Championships, is anyone stepping, not jumping?
Everyone's stepping, no one's jumping.
Okay.
Yes.
So you say it's up to you. So actually, nobody's going to want to jump this.
You wouldn't want to jump purely because of how much energy it expends. Okay. It's station 3.
That's definitely a conversation for when we do a bit more of a deep dive on how to do box step jump overs.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Station 4, 25 med ball sit-ups. Station 5, 500-meter skier. Then you've got 100-meter farmer's carry, 25-calorie air bike, 20 dead ball wall overs, 100-meter tank push and pull. So you're going to push one length, pull one length to accumulate 100 meters in total. And then finally, 20 RAM burpees. If ever you hear the word RAM, it is essentially a cylindrical hollow object that weighs varying amounts depending on the division that you partake in.
Compressed recycled rubber or recycled tires, isn't it?
It feels like tires.
I think it is recycled tires. Yeah, the whole thing's recycled. Yeah. They order them to a specific weight. So yours is 44 pounds?
Depending on the exercise, yes.
For your event.
For the burpees, it'll be 44, but for the lunges, it's 55 pounds. Yeah. So those are the stations. It's a very quick event, a lot quicker than Hyrox, usually half the time period or just a little bit over half the time period. You've then got the mile, which is the exact same layout, but instead of 500-meter runs, you only accumulate a mile over the whole race. And so I think it's 160 meters per run in between each station. And the strong is just the stations. So no runs, just working your way through stations, hence it being an 11 to 14-minute event at the elite level.
And so presumably those are pretty massive guys compared to the people doing the mile, or especially the fit. Yeah. Not that you're not massive, obviously, but, even massiver than you.
I'm annoyed I couldn't get to either of those because there were a couple of events sprinkled over the UK, but I was either working or I just wasn't in any way available, or I would have made myself available. So I'm a bit disappointed I couldn't put down a time for a mile or a strong. I'm still yet to do either of those. Those would be really cool. Or the ruck, which is the same thing but with a weighted vest on. So you have a lot of ex or current army guys that usually do that event.
Okay, I don't want to do the ruck.
Because they're usually quite very serious guys, quite scary people.
Yeah.
And then you also have the team event, which there are a load of different rules that I won't quite go into yet. But the team event is essentially doubles. So you've got, but you can also share the runs and the stations between you. You can, a whole load of rules that we'll go into another time. But yeah, there are teams as well.
So how do you feel about your chances, or how are you going to approach the final? I mean, we don't yet know. So, for example, I as I understand it, there are 19 people in the elite race for DEKA Fit on Friday, which could be in a single wave. Though last year, I think the waves were maxing out at 15 people, weren't they?
That sounds about right. I'm not sure if they've made it on a bigger scale this year. Maybe. I've asked around, and I haven't really got any straight responses from that yet. But it's gonna be a big wave. I think a bigger venue than last year, I've heard as well. So it'll be more space, more room. Obviously, it depends on how many in your heat, but the venue itself is going to be a little bit bigger. And there seems to be, they're not quite the same participants as last year. So just in the fit, for example, the current world champion, Dylan Scott, isn't going to be there. He's
in Melbourne, right?
I'm not sure if he's in Melbourne. I don't know if he's
so he qualified to be in Hyrox Melbourne, but he might not be traveling there because is he in North Carolina?
Somewhere like that. He's very tunnel visioned on Hyrox recently because he's sort of taken off in a way that he already had, but to an even higher level this and the end of last season, where he came third last season in the world. So anyway, the current world champion won't be there. We've got standout names still like Grayson Kilgore, who just dropped to 55 mid in the pro solo in Hyrox. Really, really experienced guy in DEKA as well. We've got Ryan Kent, multiple time world champion.
Doing his training course.
Yeah, or more.
Yeah.
We've got Isaac Sanderson, another really elite guy. We've got a couple of really high-end Spanish dudes, Paulo Centa, Alphonse Deo. We've got two of those, and just some incredible athletes going there. And it will be the second time I've competed directly against athletes of this caliber after the hybrid games.
First one being 2 weeks ago,
yeah. So it's sort of seeing myself start this journey of sort of getting used to competing against people that I want to be at the same level as. I'm still not sure where I stand because, again, I've only competed against people directly of that caliber once, and it was sort of middle of that pack. So, again, it's a great experience. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited to sort of meet a load of people over there and just look at the venue and be back in America. America's might not be everyone's cup of tea. I really like it. We've been on holiday there quite a few times, and just excited to see the venue and how everything's laid out. And I think for the fit, the laps are there are 2 laps, per run. So
250 meters per lap.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard. It is possible to miscount your laps, but it's going to be really hard to do that.
I would definitely.
You might find a way.
Although I tend to struggle between counting from 2 to 3. 1 to 2 I can usually manage.
But for me, my problem apparently is knowing how to spell in or out, because I went in the wrong one in hybrid games and it cost me 2 minutes. But with this one, with DEKA, there is no in and out. You go in the same place that you go out each station.
Maybe you should ask Aitor or one of the other guys if you could have a strap and hold on to them.
Someone that I know is going to be ahead of me, just
be guided in. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So if you imagine an oval like a running track, you'd have each station positioned in the middle of that, and you'd go out and in into, say it's positioned, there's one station here, you just go round in the oval. Each station is at a different point in the running track, and it's
similar
very
to Hyrox. Similar to Hyrox, but more intuitively laid out, more sequential, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to follow with the runs being shorter, with the venue being smaller.
Speaking of which, this is going to be a 15-second interlude to say, oh my gosh, the Hyrox Olympia is going to be so quick.
Yeah.
Because they've just announced the course layout for Hyrox London Olympia, and there's going to be 1 lap. So there's a 1K lap. So the serious runners who are getting into Hyrox, they're going to get such a pace going with so few corners compared to normal. But anyway, that's not the DEKA World Championships. And we've got to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So what's your prediction for the top 5?
Top 5
in DEKA Fit Elite, starting with number 5.
I actually made a list of...
Of course you did.
Of who I thought was going to...
You've made a list of all 19.
Top 10 I made a list of. So if I quickly pull that up now... So
hit us with the top 5, starting with number 5. Are you in the top 5?
I did not put myself in the top 5. A world champion in DEKA, I'm not going to say who it is, put me in the top 3, which I think just, you know who you are. Thank you. I don't have as much confidence in myself as
But you don't want to out him because you're afraid it'll look bad.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do come third, you're going to out him massively as your biggest truther.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So my top 10 in...
Top 5.
Top 5. Okay.
Starting with number 5. Who's coming in 5th?
Who's coming in 5th? I think it is going to be Nick Riker.
Nick Riker's coming in 5th, folks. And number 4, devastated to just missed out on the podium, and he'll be inconsolable after the race. That is going to be...
I think it's going to be Isaac Sanderson.
Isaac Sanderson. Bad luck, Isaac.
Yeah.
And the 3rd place step on the podium. Happy to be there.
Cole
Walkington. And the only other guy in your age in the Elite 15? Or Elite 19?
In the DEKA Elite 19, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Cole. I'm rooting for him because, again, my age, that's kind of cool.
Runner-up?
Ryan Kent.
Runner-up is Ryan Kent. Trailing him behind the unit himself.
Grayson Kilgore.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you heard it first. And Jude is coming in at a solid
9th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic debut performance. So if all that happens as Jude predicts, we won't bother doing a DEKA review episode because you already know the results. Anything else to add about that before we wrap up?
I think that's about it. I'm excited.
And that is the quote of the week, that you are coming in 9th.
Yeah.
And that Grayson Kilgore is winning.
Yeah.
And that is something to take to the bank.
Almost all the way to the bank.
Almost all the way to the bank.
Because I might squeeze out an 8th.
That might be the quote of the week. Jude squeezing out an 8th. Grayson wins.
It's not a sport tailored to me. I'll just put it that way. I'm decent at it, but it's not tailored to me, and so I don't think, I'll be up there, but I'll give it my best.
you need to get rid of the run burpees first, and then it's
Yeah.
tailored to you,
Yeah.
more or less. Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening. That's been episode 16 of the Hybrid Fitness Report. I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
And we'll speak to you next week. Thanks very much.